Hello.
Hi. It's our first episode.
Our very first episode of our very first podcast ever. Oh my gosh, we've been wanting to do this for so long. So, this is Queerodivergent, a podcast made by and for the queer and neurodivergent. Here we share our differences in the way we experience and navigate this world and celebrate the connections we make as a community often othered by general society. I'm Amber.
I'm Eli.
And today we are discussing, do you want to read it?
Queerness and neurodiversity, and why we decided to pair the two into one umbrella topic and make a whole podcast about it.
Yes. We got a bulleted list because I'm organized. There are different definitions of everything. So there's different definitions of queer and different definitions of neurodivergent. I think that looking at the different angles of it are important. So what is queerness? A lot of people have their own thought about what they picture it to be. I'm not saying any of it's wrong, but I think it's good to know what everybody thinks. Yeah.
Oxford Languages defines queer as 1, strange or odd, or 2, denoting or relating to a sexual or gender identity that does not correspond to established ideas of sexuality and gender, especially heterosexual norms. And then Planned Parenthood has a definition. Queer is a word that describes sexual and gender identities other than straight and cisgender. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people may all identify with the word queer. Queer is sometimes used to express that sexuality and gender can be complicated, change over time, and might not fit neatly into either or identities like male or female, gay or straight.
I like it. Of course, Planned Parenthood has like a more in-depth definition. I don't want him to whack it with a sail. There are twin cats that live here. Anyway, neurodiversity. Harvard Health Publishing. Neurodiversity describes the idea that people experience and interact with the world around them in many different ways. There is no one right way of thinking, learning, and behaving, and differences are not viewed as deficits. The word neurodiversity refers to the diversity of all people, but is often used in the context of autism spectrum disorder, ASD, as well as other neurological or developmental conditions such as ADHD or learning disabilities. The neurodiversity movement emerged during the 1990s, aiming to increase acceptance and inclusion of all people while embracing neurological differences. The other one we have is from Oxford Languages again. So neurodivergent. So one was neurodiversity and one was neurodivergent. I think that's important to show because one is kind of just talking about the idea. And one is like, this is what a neurodivergent person is. Differing in mental or neurological function from what is considered typical or normal, frequently used with reference to autistic spectrum disorders, not neurotypical. These aren't the only two definitions of each thing. Those are just some good ones I found.
An important thing with words, labels, words are just boxes that we put ideas in, but nothing will fit perfectly in any box. So kind of like the edges of what the label describes are always changing, and people have differing opinions about that, and so it's always it's just not concrete. It's always good to remember that words can't just have concrete, perfect definitions of anything. Yeah, we're just always kind of constantly redeciding and redefining as a species what something is and what it means.
Which is a good thing. And it doesn't mean that we're making up new definitions for things that are rock solid already and changing it. I mean, we are, but they're never rock solid.
What is the definition of a man or a woman? It's not as simple as people like to make it out to be.
Yeah.
Lots of cultures throughout the past have had more than two genders that were accepted and respected in their society. It's never been a concrete thing.
Yeah. Item number 2, the overlap. Many queer people are also neurodivergent. According to Psychology Today, it is estimated that anywhere from 30% to 70% of those who are neurodivergent are also part of the LGBTQIA+ communities, with the greatest overlap being found with the autistic community. There isn't a single answer that explains the overlap, but one assumption is that neurodivergent people are less likely to be influenced by social expectations. However, the reason for the overlap will likely become clearer over time as we continue to identify and hear about the lived experiences of neurodivergent people. They're overlapped in a lot of ways, not just by like being like othered by society, but also because a lot of the people are just the same people. So not like they're not always, but a lot of people with neurodivergence, neurodiversity, neurodivergence, thank you, are like they're queer in some way and vice versa. I want to learn more about the overlap, share what we learned, and also just kind of talk about the experiences of having both. The next thing we have is our midway break, intermission. So I want to put this every time we're halfway. Remember to drink water. You don't have to get an expensive water bottle, but get a nice water bottle because this is easy to wash. I got it at Goodwill for, let's see, $4. And it's just as good as one of those Stanley cups or whatever. And it's blue, which makes me think of water. And I did have one that I decorated all with stickers, and I plan to do that with this one possibly. Just make it like your little thing. I know this isn't like, anything profound, but I find it really nice to just have like a big water container with me that I don't have to keep refilling, but it also isn't like plastic, so it doesn't end up tasting weird over time. And it's really easy to wash. You can take like the parts off really easily and wash them. Did you drink your water?
Yeah.
Okay. Have to make sure. Ozzy's not going to drink his water right now.
He's having a good time.
He's having a good time. And then we don't have sponsors because we just started, and also if we ever do, I'm going to be very picky about them because I really want to align with them. But instead of a sponsor, we just want to remind you, especially because we're brand new, to follow us. Follow us. I think we're cool. Hopefully if you're still here, you think we're cool. And we're going to be doing more. We have reels that we put out. We want to do like a blog and more.
And there's so many tangents that, I want to go off on that kind of start there and then head in different directions.
Hello, this is Editing Amber because the sound cut off for some reason for the last half. So I just want you to know, appreciate you being here. Happy to have you. It's going to be a little worse audio quality because we're going to be using the audio from my camera for the second half. Back to the episode.
Item 3 is our connection to queerodiversity / how we fit under the umbrellas.
So for neurodiversity, I got diagnosed this year with ADHD. So last summer, I think.
And we knew.
Yeah.
For a long time.
So I have pretty strong ADHD, and I definitely thought it was fake when I was in college and like growing up, or at least that a lot of people thought they had it and didn't have it, and I was like, well, everybody has these symptoms, like I even have these symptoms, so obviously like it's not ADHD or like it's not a disorder or whatever, because I had it and a lot of people around me had it. And it turns out ADHD people kind of tend to hang around other people that have it. Surprise. So I'm excited to learn more about myself, and I knew that I've had it for a couple years now. I think Eli kind of helped me learn that I actually did.
I guess the best way to put it for me is long-term suspected and peer-diagnosed autistic. I have a lot of the traits. I was very good at masking for a long time in certain ways. When it got harder, it kind of became more of like an issue that was visible, especially once I left the structure of school. Lack of structure is very difficult for me. I have a lot of the traits, and They affect my daily life in a lot of ways.
So, for queerness, I am pan, polypan, polyamorous, pansexual. Also, I consider it bi too, because I date whoever I want, and it doesn't have anything to do with what gender you are. And I don't have like a preference thing, you know, of like one or the other, or like a physical preference or anything like that. It's just who I'm attracted to and who treats me well. Who I like spending time with. Eli is one of those people that I love spending time with. And well, I guess we can talk about our relationship a little bit more, but I can have you do a little
Yeah.
intro.
Yeah, so I consider myself bisexual. I know it's like complicated between bi and pan. I usually call myself bisexual because although I can be attracted to anyone of any gender, I do find that gender expression does influence my attraction, which is one of the ways I've heard people define the difference. And I'm also transgender. I'm transmasculine, non-binary. Not a man, but I use they, he pronouns, and I like to present kind of like, you know, physically masculine, but then I like to play with femininity as well. And I'm also polyamorous, which I know like there's been debate about, you know, is like, does polyamory mean you're queer? And I don't think it has to, but I think that there's a lot of overlap in the communities, and it's a very important part of my identity overall. Amber is one of my partners. I currently have another one, and we are in her house. So, yeah, I'm sure we'll talk more about that as well.
Yeah. I completely forgot to talk about like anything but sexual orientation with me. But I guess as far as like gender goes, I'm very feminine. I just don't like vibe with the cisness of it. Even if I call myself a woman and like use like she, her pronouns. Well, really it's like she, they pronouns, but I just like don't really have a like. I guess I just don't care to add it in, like the they in too much. But a lot of the things no, it's okay. A lot of the things the way I express myself kind of just happens to be somewhat of a default. And then I also like pretty things and long hair and stuff. So, and I'm a little soft-spoken and bubbly. So people just kind of just consider me a cis girl, but I can't. I don't think of myself in that way of that like I'm on one side of this like spectrum and the men are on the other side, and I don't see it that way. So I consider myself non-binary. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was gonna say like you don't experience like dysphoria.
Yeah.
Right? But it's very much like you're not a default cis woman because your beliefs about gender are outside of what people consider to be gender norms, and so you know that's what kind of like puts you in kind of like the screw gender group.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. We're both polyamorous, and we label our polyamory like a kitchen table like relationship anarchy.
Yes, those things combined.
We can go more into that in another episode because that's multiple episodes worth of conversation.
Yeah.
But basically, we just vibe. We are doing this podcast partly also to just spread awareness. There's many things to talk about with neurodiversity and queerness, and there's many things that people are talking about, which is lovely. And some of those things I just want even more people to talk about because there's still so many people who are very unaware, you know, not just for queer people and like the stuff that people are already talking about, but there's also, I think that, not to like toot our own horns or whatever, but I feel like there's a lot of stuff that we talk about that not a lot of people do, and experience that not a lot of people talk about. And I am excited to share those things.
And I have like there's just so much infighting, which makes no sense to me because come on, love is love. And
yeah.
I think it's easier for a lot of people to not think about it, because if you start going down that rabbit hole, it's like, wow, now I have to just like change how I view the whole world. And you should. That's necessary. There's another aspect of it that I think is common, which is, well, if everything's not all concrete and easy, then how do I know who I am? And people are afraid to explore that. But I think it's always a good thing to do self-exploration, and I think that the easier it is to access people talking about it like this, kind of just like, calmly and chilling, the easier it is for people to start thinking about stuff like that.
Yes. People talk about, similar to kind of what I was saying earlier in a way, but people talk about queerness and like neurodiversity as only issues, or just very, very seriously, which it's very important to be serious about sometimes, but we're also just living our lives. And I think it's good to just normalize the joy of it, like similar to like the whole trans joy like conversation, but also with neurodivergent people and just queerness in general, polyamory, big one, and yeah.
I would not change anything about who I am or like my experiences. I love being trans. I love having participated in forming my body. I love being so like connected to it. I love the different perspectives it's given me on gender, and the exploration it's forced me to do to understand what I think gender is. And I also would not change like yes, there's so much stress that comes with like the autistic traits and everything, but also so much joy that just explodes out of me sometimes that I cannot control, and it's overwhelming in such a good way, and I think it's a gift to be able to feel very deeply, so I'm really grateful for that.
It's totally fine if what you kind of express yourself ends up being somewhat default, kind of like me in some ways, but the circle it takes to get back to your expression and like it helps you just feel like I am truly this way. I'm wearing these clothes or dating this person or whatever it is because I truly want to, not just because it's default, is very important. The more you explore gender and the brain and the mind, you find many things along the way that just helps you learn about the world around you and like what being a person is really like.
The more that you understand yourself and can accept yourself, I think the more you can connect with the people around you and accept them and love them for who they are.
So true, so true. Too much. The importance of community in a society of isolation. This is another reason we wanted to start the podcast, because it's great to learn about yourself, and it's great to, know who you are, know what you like, know that everything's changing, and look inward. But we're like communal creatures by nature. Having a community based around things that especially are not normalized, unfortunately, it's very important. It's a lot more fun to share things and have these experiences together.
Okay, so I'm also a very spiritual person, and I believe that we are all like one consciousness, and you don't have to go that far, but I think it's kind of easy to see once we look under the surface that we're all connected. And I think a big thing that's missing in Western society is like community culture. And one great thing about kind of exploring yourself and like, you know, being queer and neurodivergent and just kind of like forming like an identity that's outside of the default is you are able to connect with others, and like there's a culture there, right? You know, and it can help give you that sense of togetherness that like we are missing so much. You know, when you have like that culture and you're connected to the people around you and your community, it's just, it makes you feel more like, you know, this is just like, this is a home, this is like, you know, where I belong, this is where I fit in. I don't know, it wasn't like as well put as I wanted it to be, but it's just a feeling, you know.
Yeah, it's like, it's more sustainable to be yourself if you have a place to be yourself.
And so we all gotta connect more, so there's more places to be yourself.
Yeah, I'm sure you watching feel it, the like individualism of like having to discover all this stuff on your own versus when you have people with you. It's so much easier. And we're not all meant to be in these little tiny boxes, going into our little tiny cars, into our little cubicles, going home, and just doing everything on your own. It's not meant to be that way. It's supposed to like love together and work together
and play together.
Play together. Yeah. What my phone has to say about this. According to happiness.com, which is cute, some studies have linked the emotional strain of loneliness caused by social isolation to physical illness, including sleep disorders, heart disease, and a weakened immune system. A public health study done in Canada even ranked the social isolation as a higher risk factor for premature death. So community can also help you live longer and also live more physically well. I see it all the time. It manifests physically so much. And people don't tend to really talk about that, like doctors don't tend to talk about that. Everything just seems to get a little bit smoother and lighter when there's people around, like-minded people. So the only thing we have now, well, a couple things. We have comment question. So we're going to think about this on the spot, but I want you guys to leave a comment. So we're the next episode 2, we're going to read these comments, like our favorite ones, and respond to them, or just, you know, read them. But here's the prompt. You can leave a comment outside the prompt if you want, but the prompt, we have to make it up.
I have one. I have an idea. Favorite moments of like queer or neurodiverse community and connection that brought you like just a sense of joy and peace and togetherness.
I love it. Yes. So give us one of your experiences, share it with everybody, and then we'll read them next time. I always listen to podcasts for like next week. And then, well, I can't do the last week's comment question because it's the first episode. And then where to find more. I talked about this a little when we were halfway through, but we do have a link tree that has mutual aid opportunities because we're a community. And our links, our socials, all that. And then I wanted to also make up another thing on the spot, which is affirmations. So each episode will end with an affirmation. You're not alone. Sounds cliche, but you know, you're loved, even if maybe the people around you might be struggling with that, like expressing it or even showing love.
You belong in this world just the way that you are.
You're not actually by yourself.
The universe loves you.
Okay, so I will put all of the sources and stuff in the description or show notes or wherever you're listening to this. And thank you for listening to us. I hope that we could bring you some value here, some love.
Thank you.
Thank you. We did it.
Yes.
First episode. Hopefully, nothing turned off.
Fingers crossed.